Welcome back to the Lucas and Lucas podcast. It is Thursday, April 8th. Lucas, Frankel, Mike Lucas coming at you from Texas and the great state of Connecticut. Frank, you went to a Yankee game this week. We'll get to that in a sec, but let's start with last night. An extra inning loss to the Baltimore Orioles, an inexcusable play by Gio to tag up late in the game and get gunned out at the plate. Immediate reaction. Go.
First off, the Yankees are now 0-2 in extra inning games this season. I cannot stand starting the runner on second base. I just think that you can, as a pitcher, you can go out there, you can, get a ground ball to second, and then you get a fly out to right field, and then you give a run, and then if you don't score in the bottom half of the inning, you lose the game. I just feel like this whole narrative of needing to speed up the game, I feel like it's from people that actually don't watch baseball. And I think this extra inning rule it's ruining the authenticity of like who should win each game. And I'm not listen. I know if the Yankees were 2-0, I'd be listening. I love this rule. This is the greatest rule ever. But I would still feel the same way about it. And there's nothing that how good the Yankees are in it or how bad they are in it that would change the way I feel about it. I'm just not a fan of the extra inning rule with a runner on second base. Just feel like it's a almost like a forced way to try to speed up the game, and it's just not something that I'll probably ever be a fan of.
On that topic, two things. One, as a Yankee fan, it's extra infuriating because all they do is strike out. So it doesn't matter if they have someone on second base to begin with or not. It's either home run or strikeout. So they're never really advancing the runner to third. And then we saw last night they actually do, and then he gets tagged out trying to steal or tag up on a fly ball to right field. That was barely a fly ball. It was a line drive. I mean, it was maybe 200 feet away from home plate. It's a dumb decision. Back to speeding up the game, though. I agree with you that the people who complain about the speed of the game are the ones who aren't watching. But at the same time, all the metrics do say that less and less or fewer and fewer people are actually watching baseball. So I think there is a correlation in speed versus who's watching, but less people are watching because it takes forever.
No,
I don't love it either.
Less people are watching every single sport. The Super Bowl has gone under 100 million viewers for that was like unheard of like a couple of years ago, under 100 million for the Super Bowl. But every year, every sport goes down. This isn't just baseball losing ratings. Every single sport is losing ratings, and this notion that it's because the game takes too long is honestly it's arrogant, and it's not really a true feeling as to why like the baseball is like not as quote unquote popular as it used to be.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. A, people now have shorter attention spans than ever before. You can get all the highlights on demand at the click of your finger through your phone. So you don't have to watch it live to still get the gist of what happened. And then there's the streaming aspect to it, and they haven't found a way to fully calculate the true ratings combining TV viewers and then streaming viewers into one actual metric. So yeah, the ratings across the board are down, but I do think people's attention spans, and it has been proven by you see shorter articles written. TV packages are shorter than ever. They're showing more 20-second highlights because people's attention spans in general have been condensed, and they call it the Vine era for a reason. 6 seconds, you have to be funny. That's why Vine was so perfect for this generation, and then Vine left, and now it's a minute. How often do you sit through and watch a whole minute of content on Instagram, Frank? I know you're not a huge scroller, but very rarely do you sit through an entire Instagram story if it's a minute long. You stay.
First of all, I don't click on Instagram stories. I don't do TikTok. I never really was involved with Vine, so I'm not really. I'm not really catering. I have not been catered to that. I'm not their demo. There you go.
Yeah. So that's my point. You are the rare exception that you'll sit and watch a 3.5-hour Yankee game and be upset that it's not 4.5 hours because the runner started on second base in the 11th inning. So like you're right. It isn't designed for you, but also most of the society is not Lucas Frankel for better and probably for worse. That's not what
this conversation is about. The conversation is about that the extra inning rule is stupid and they need to get rid of it immediately. But Rob Manfred has made a lot of questionable moves during his time as commissioner based on most notably letting the Astros keep the 2017 World Series championship. And I cannot wait to go to Yankee Stadium on May 4th and completely eviscerate that franchise and just let him hear it for 3 hours, and it's going to be a bloodbath, and I'm very excited. So a couple of the Yankees notes. Gleyber Torres cannot be the shortstop. I mean, the Yankees have to – they can't keep moving forward and throwing Gleyber Torres as a starting shortstop going forward. You have to mix it up. Here's what I would do, and I tweeted this out. You got to start and play Tyler Wade at shortstop. You got to move Gleyber to second. You got to put DJ LeMahieu at first, and you got to take Jay Bruce out of the lineup. I don't care. Tyler Wade not being this offensive juggernaut of a player, that's fine. He can leg out an infield hit. He's got some sneaky power. He can drive the ball into the gaps. He's not like this, this guy that goes up there and there's an automatic strikeout waiting to happen. There are way worse offensive options in baseball than Tyler Wade. He is electric on the base pass. Probably the single fastest guy in all Major League Baseball. And I would 100% start him at shortstop. He makes that throw, that Gleyber short hop at first base in extra innings that ultimately probably cost the Yankees the game. And he's looked so bad in the early going. His offense is not been up to par either. Maybe he's overthinking because he knows that he can't make a throw from shortstop to first base. Gleyber Torres cannot, under any circumstance, be the Yankee shortstop going forward. I don't care that Tyler Wade isn't this 30 home run guy. God forbid you play someone who doesn't hit 30 home runs. What a concept, Aaron Boone. Mix it up. Let's go.
Wasn't Torres praised for his defense when he came over in the trade? Like, it was, his offense, he has plus potential power, could be a good contact hitter, but his defense, surefire.
He was an offensive guy.
Okay. I'm wrong. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah. But Tyler Wade needs to be the everyday. I mean, I get that he's not your prototypical, superstar shortstop player, but I feel like he would add a little bit of a variety, diversity to the lineup, and that's a move that Aaron Boone really needs to strongly consider, because what happened yesterday just can't happen again. And it's happened multiple times this year. Gleyber not getting to a ball, making a bad throw. It's just, I don't see it ever changing for him at shortstop. And that's something the Yankees need to get ahead of. As for the Gio Urshela thing, listen, the Yankees were not, as soon as Gleyber short hopped that ball to first base, the game was over. And if I can go back, I would put my life savings on the Orioles winning that game in extra innings. But so the thought process there is you hit a line drive to medium to maybe shallow.
It was shallow right field.
All right, so
Yankee Stadium's not deep enough to have a deep right field, so it was shallow right field.
So the tag beat him by like a second, right? It was 1 second. So if that throws up the line a little bit, if he bounces it, everything's got to work perfectly in order for that to go the way it did, and the Orioles executed it. And Gio's obviously not the fastest guy in the league, but in terms of sending him in that situation, Gleyber was on deck. He was not getting hit there. Just based on the way these sports work, Gleyber, after bouncing the ball to first, honestly, Gio Urshela probably did it to save Gleyber Torres. I'm dead serious. I bet you his thought process was Gleyber's not getting a hit here, so I gotta take one for the team. And I know he ended up hurting his shoulder on the play. Hopefully it's nothing serious and he will play on Friday against the Rays. But that's honestly the justification I came up with in my mind for why Gio tagged up on that play.
Yeah, I don't have an issue really with him tagging. I mean, I think it's risky, but as we've said the last 2 weeks in the pod, the Yankees strike out every at bat. There was a chance for them to tie the game without having to have somebody actually put the ball in play. And with how frequently this team strikes out, I don't mind being risky in the base pass. Urshela's not that fast. It was a perfect throw. He got beat by 2 steps, which means even if the throw wasn't perfect, as long as it was good, it was probably getting him. It happened to be perfect. But that was like a 200-foot throw, man. That's what's scary. That was not a long throw, and the majority of MLB outfielders make that throw on a laser, just like whoever the Orioles right fielder is. I don't even know his name, but
I believe it was Santander. But either way,
whatever. That's a throw that more often than not they're gonna make. But yeah, Torres was probably gonna strike out. Anyone, I mean, unless it was LeMahieu up next, like my confidence in anyone not to strike out is so low right now that I would have sent him too.
All right, let's move on to Aaron Judge, who had to miss the game due to soreness on his side. 5 games into the year, we're already dealing with nonsense with Aaron Judge getting hurt. And honestly, I'm sick of it. I'm so over dealing with Aaron Judge and counting on this guy to be a reliable focal point on this Yankees team. Every year, it seems like the past 3 or 4 years, it's something. He's dealing with something. And whether it's an oblique, a calf, whatever on his body, he's just not durable. And I'm not giving him anything more than 1-year deals until he proves that he can play 150 games. Until I see that, I'm not breaking the bank for this guy. And it's unfortunate because he has all the makings to be the next Yankee captain, the next Derek Jeter. Let's go. But he just hasn't proven that he can be reliable enough and durable enough to warrant the commitment that the Yankees should give him, but he hasn't proven that he deserves at all, and it's sad.
No, it sucks because he is, when healthy, elite, like in the category of one of the couple of best players in baseball. But you look across sports, the tallest dudes in the NBA have such a short lifespan. One little injury can throw them off really for their entire careers. It happens in football too. Aaron Judge is a monster-sized baseball player. He's gigantic. 6'7", 65 pounds, 270. I mean, they don't make dudes that big that play this sport. And it's hard for a guy like that, even though baseball is not the most physical sport, to keep his body in the shape it needs to be. What surprises me about Judge, though, is we saw him get really big.
He was always really big. He was always really big.
But we saw him lean down a little bit, try to drop some weight, and try to be more flexible and pliable. That didn't really work. We've seen his body fluctuate to a couple different versions of still being massive. I mean, I think 245 was the lowest weight he admitted getting down to, but we've seen him fluctuate, and he hasn't found that happy spot yet. So I'm curious what the next step is to try and get him in a spot that is his body's good place. We got to get him and Bryson DeChambeau to start hanging out together. And I don't know if you saw us on Twitter the other day, but did you see DeChambeau on the driving range?
He hits bombs.
Well, he was very frustrated. He's trying out a new driver at the Masters, and he was very frustrated. It wasn't going where he wants, and he was like screaming at his caddy to put a ball down, and he was taking these giant drives, and the force he was generating, the torque he was generating in his side is way more than any baseball swing. But his sides don't hurt. So we got to get him and Judge to hang out so Judge can learn from DeChambeau how to swing with that veracity and not strain and pull your oblique. Because DeChambeau is as big as any golfer height-wise, and then size-wise, he's the biggest golfer on tour now. So Judge, the biggest baseball player, DeChambeau, the biggest golfer, put him in a room and have Judge learn how to not strain his oblique swinging a bat 7 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that this is, just
it's beyond frustrating.
Don't play this game with me where like you sit him out, you keep like it's. I mean, I feel like this is gonna be something that's a daily thing. Like, he can't play more than 3 days in a row. He can't play him on the turf in Tampa or Toronto, and it just I'm so sick and tired of dealing with this guy. I just went through. I literally called in the Michael K show yesterday.
Did you get through?
Huh?
Did you get through?
Yeah. So yeah, the way my sports radio calling works is I'll give it 2 chances. If I call and I can't get it after 2 chances, I just don't bother, because you could be on hold for hours and who knows if you ever get through. But I got through yesterday. I made my point about Judge, and I said that he's basically the modern day Greg Bird, which is a little extreme, but in the case of like you're relying and counting on this guy to be a focal point of your team, and he continuously fails to show up, and eventually he's gone and no one ever hears from him again. And I really, really hope that's not the case for Aaron Judge. But moving on,
wait, what did Michael K say to that?
So I know. Well, he said the bird comparison was a little extreme, which he's not wrong.
Which it is. Which it is.
What?
He's already better in the one season he had than Greg Bird ever was.
Right. Well, not in terms of like the caliber of player or how prolific they could be, just in terms of how much a team relies on a certain player. Like Bird was, the Yankees basically put all their decks. They stacked all their chips into Greg Bird being their everyday first baseman for 16, 17, and 18 before they got Voit, and it completely backfired, and they had to scramble to find replacements, and it really, really hurt the trajectory of the team. But either way.
They get Luke Voit out of that, though.
I'm not. Voigt's a nice player. I'm not like, oh my God, we have Luke Voit. Oh my God, I will never feel that way. All right, moving on. As pathetic as the Yankees are, they're 3-3 after 6 games. The Brooklyn Nets put on an absolute clinic on Wednesday night against the New Orleans Pelicans. 139-111. Kevin Durant, after nearly 2 months away from the game, returned 17 points. 5 of 5 from the field. Looked like he never missed a beat. I actually started freaking out because he was originally supposed to start the game, and then we get to the second quarter. He's still not in the game. Didn't check in until midway through the second quarter. I was like, what the hell is happening here?
I had to text you. So I was watching the game real quick, but I was on the phone for work, so I didn't have the sound on. So I saw the tweet that he was starting, then he wasn't starting, and so I watched the whole first quarter with no sound. Like, where the hell's Kevin Durant? Where is he? So I texted you, and then as I texted you, of course, he checks in. So I don't know what they were saying. Did they ever give an explanation why Steve Nash waited?
Something along the lines of just being extra careful and his ramp up. I mean, you would know more than me because you played basketball. Like something about like the ramp up level and staying warm and not cooling down and having to restart and re-go again. Something along those lines. Didn't seem something way above my head, but either way, he came back. He looked great, and it was just a magical experience. And I really hope that this Harden thing doesn't linger like the Durant thing did, and these guys can in the next couple of weeks just build some sort of camaraderie on the court before the playoffs start, because they really need it. I guess in the grand scheme of things, whoever you ask, like we were talking to Avery Johnson last night, he was like, "Oh, it doesn't matter at all." But I think it does matter. I think these guys need to at least like get a feel for one another. I mean, they were 19-4 in games Durant missed, and with Harden, Kyrie basically leading the way. And I believe they were like 5-2 when the three of them play together. So it's weird in terms of how all the records line up. So I really don't know what to make of the whole situation.
No, I think they do need reps, and it's maybe not full game reps, but it's fourth quarter reps. And it's when, hey, it's a 7-8 point game in the fourth quarter. What are we going to do? And I don't think the first time you can figure that out is in a playoff series, especially probably in the second round, because they should be able to get by the first round opponent with relative ease, no matter who comes out of those playing games. So, but I think those reps are valuable late in games. In the first three quarters there, it is what it is. Harden, I'm not worried about. He's been the ultimate testament of durability over the last decade. Durant, we had reason to be worried about the hamstring, and it proved to be more worrisome than I think we ever could have imagined. Harden, on the other hand, has been a beacon, a pinnacle of durability and stability. So I think it's just a little strained hammy. He'll be back. They're probably being even extra cautious just because it's the regular season and they don't particularly need these games. Harden's shown he's elite. I'm sorry for your MVP pick. This definitely takes him out of the running for that. So I do apologize.
Honestly, no. It's honestly like if any Nets fan wants to blame me for jinxing, because I jinxed LeBron. He got a high ankle sprain. I jinxed Harden. So like whoever I bet on for MVP is gonna end up getting hurt. So I'll probably hedge and bet on Jokic, and then he'll tear his Achilles or something like that, and that'll be the end of his MVP candidate. So yeah, I'm just not gonna bet on MVP until like the season is over and I know who's gonna win, and I can sneak in before the odds go astronomically high. Then I'll leave it at that.
So, but yeah, as far as the game last night, that was the most fun basketball game I think I've watched all season. It was unbelievable to see Durant come back, turn the ball over on his first possession. And I was on the phone with Eli at the time, and I'm like, Eli, he sucks. Cut him. Get him out. And then he comes down and scores 3 straight buckets. And I'm like, Eli, he's back. And it was just the range of emotion, like so good to see him playing. Durant and Aldridge looked unbelievable in the first half. Now, I know New Orleans is not great. They have a lot of issues defensively. They have no idea what they're doing. But Aldridge fits in with this team almost seamlessly. And there was a couple possessions in the first half, even before Durant came in, where they drove past the corner. Aldridge made the extra pass. He's not being selfish. He's a great facilitator from the high post. And then you get Blake Griffin coming off the bench. And that dunk he had the buzzer beater to end the first quarter. And the bench went wild. Then he has the dunk, and you see everyone going crazy. And then maybe my favorite part of the whole game was it was either late third, early fourth quarter. Chioza threw the alley-oop to Bruce Brown, and then Bruce Brown threw it down with one hand on the fast break. And you see the entire bench, and the bench, which includes Durant, Harden, Kyrie, everyone not in the game, going absolutely crazy. And that brings me back to remember when the Nets had Theo Pinson, and when they were first getting good, and the bench was just so much fun, and they were enjoying basketball. And it was fun to watch the Nets enjoy watching each other. I think this Nets team, even with so many moving parts, like generally likes each other and likes to play with each other. And that's a hard chemistry to get with a new head coach, so many new players, and so many established veterans who, you know, when you're young, like Theo Pinson was, your best friends are the guys who are on the end of the bench with you. Like LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't have friends on the end of this Nets bench yet. Blake Griffin doesn't have friends on the end of this Nets bench yet. Like Alize Johnson Alizé Johnson, how do you pronounce his name? Like he's brand new. Like he doesn't, but they're all in this together. And I don't know. It makes it more fun from my perspective because I was that guy in the end of the bench. So maybe it's just a little extra joy knowing that was my role, and to see Kevin Durant take my role, like it's awesome to see because a star player doesn't always do that.
So the passing with Aldridge is honestly a work of art. Kevin Durant had an absolute dime, I believe, in like the third quarter, where he like drew the whole defense to him, like whipped it behind his back, and there was
It was awesome.
30 feet of Aldridge, and he like got an easy. Like, Aldridge. By the way, one more point here. Blake Griffin's dunk that you mentioned I didn't know he had it in him. That was a ferocious, monstrous dunk. I screamed. I was like, the Blake train.
It was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. And real quick, before you finish your point, I don't think we talked about this last week, but can we talk about Blake Griffin's comment from last week where they asked him about joining a super team? He's like, hey, you guys said I sucked 2 weeks ago. Now I'm part of a super team. Hell yeah, Blake. It is amazing how the narrative on a player changes just on the situation. And Blake clearly was not giving his full effort in Detroit because we didn't see this Blake in Detroit. But let's not pretend that like Aldridge and Griffin are going to be the leading stars on this Nets team. Like they're great additions, but I just loved how Griffin phrased that quote to the media, who are the same people who have been like, yeah, you're washed up and stink. Oh, but now you're joining the Nets. 10-time All-Star Blake Griffin joined. Oh, nah, he was the bum of the day. I just thought it was a great quote. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Blake has won me over. He is so rootable, and I cannot get enough of him.
He's awesome. He's all like this whole team. This team is fun to watch. It's fun to root for.
Yeah. Well, at least for us Nets fans, it is. I feel like the rest of the NBA world is just like they hate the Nets, but whatever. Get over yourself.
So is this how Patriot fans feel?
No. We haven't won anything. Stop.
No, I know. No. I know. But from they're fun to root for, but everyone else outside hates them for whatever reason.
I don't think the Patriots are ever fun to root for. But last point, I love how the Nets took DeAndre Jordan out of the rotation. I don't know like what that conversation was like. I thought he was like this huge piece that Kyrie and Durant were like, he's coming with us. But yet, ever since they got Aldridge replaced him in the starting lineup, and I feel like he hasn't played, or even like in the blowout, he's not even seeing minutes. I don't know what the thought process was with DeAndre, but
you want to hear a stat? In the first quarter of net games this year, the Nets have been outscored by 15 points per 100 possessions in the first quarter with DeAndre Jordan on the court. They are +7 per 100 possessions with anyone else in the center spot not named DeAndre Jordan. That's a 22-point, and I forget who Kevin O'Connor said it on a podcast. I forget who the original tweet came from. That's a 22-point difference between DeAndre Jordan and anyone else, whether it be Nick Claxton, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, or even Bruce Brown in some instances. So I think even as a veteran player like Jordan, you look at those numbers and you're like, how do I argue that? So I think Jordan will play in certain roles against certain guys, but yeah, he's their fourth best center right now.
And I'm completely cool with it. Like I was never a big DeAndre guy. I never really understood why there was this insistence on bringing him aboard. So the fact that he's not playing now, I have no issue with it at all. I'm not going to get any complaints from me because I just feel like he's good for a couple alley-oops a game. But other than that, he's one of the worst defenders right now in the league. All right, moving on. On Monday, as I was on my way to Yankee Stadium, trying to call into the Michael K show to try to rip apart Brian Cashman.
Wait. We missed this during the Yankees. What happened during Stanton's at bat when you were at the game?
All right. So what happened was, Stanton was up with the bases loaded, and I was just like, I wanted to do I just started recording because I wanted to do a video about him striking out with the bases loaded and just ripping him to shreds. I was so ready for it. The first pitch was a strike, and I was just ready to just rip him apart because that's all he was. I believe he was like over 13 at that point. And I was just so ready to just completely eviscerate him. And then he hits a grand slam. And I was so shocked. And the video is on my Twitter account if you want to take a look at it. Could not have been more floored at the result of that at bat.
Okay. I just wanted that on the record. Continue with your Sam Darnold news.
But if you watch the video, I still say that. Even though like it was a moment of like praise for him, I was like, no, I'm not buying it. So even though he came through in the moment and hit a 470-foot bomb, I'm not going to care. Either way. So the New York Jets have decided to give it up on Sam Darnold, traded him to the Panthers for second and fourth round picks next year, sixth round pick this year. I feel like Sam never got a fair shot with this team, had the worst supporting cast, had multiple head coaches, like 3 different offensive coordinators, just literally impossible for any quarterback to succeed in that offense. I was secretly hoping that the Jets would just try to give him one more chance and maybe draft a Penei Sewell, trade back and take a Kyle Pitts, and to see if like he can actually play, because they invested so much in him just 3 years ago. And to see them punt on him like this, listen, this Zach Wilson stuff, I don't know. I can't say I watch a ton of BYU football. I guess he has a great arm, but I mean, like Joe Douglas, you're really taking a major. I mean, this is the four. It was Sanchez, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and now Zach Wilson. The 4th time in the past like 10 years or so that the Jets have sort of revamped and are regrouping and going in a completely different direction at quarterback. And why should I have any expectation that this time will be different when all the other previous times it didn't work?
You shouldn't. The Jets haven't had a good quarterback since Joe Namath. It's been like 30 years. Chad Pennington was average at best. I don't care what anyone says. It's risky. I think Sam Darnold has a chance to be pretty good still. I agree with you on the fact that it's impossible to evaluate a quarterback under those circumstances. So they gave him up without really knowing what they had. So maybe a second-round pick is a steal if he turns into an absolute fire or an absolute dumpster fire in Carolina. Then you got a great deal and got a steal. But if he turns into something good, giving up a potentially franchise-changing quarterback for a second rounder and a 4th and a 6th is a grand larceny for Carolina. So I think it's a win in the sense that they were taking a quarterback. I don't think you could have 2 quarterbacks and succeed had they kept Darnold and drafted Wilson. The only thing that makes me think this may be different this time around is I really like Robert Saleh as a head coach, and maybe he didn't love Darnold. And if he didn't love Darnold, then you're starting off on the wrong foot for a marriage between a head coach and a quarterback. Even if he's a defensive-minded head coach, I think you need that synergy to succeed at that level. And maybe he just liked Wilson more, and that is why they decided to go in that direction. But yeah, I'm not sold on. I'm not selling all my Darnold stock yet. Like I think he's still an asset, and I think he still has a chance to be pretty good. And if Carolina looks at him as better than Teddy Bridgewater right now, then a second-round pick for him is a steal. So I really like what Carolina did. And while I wouldn't have done that personally if I was the Jets, if they look at Wilson as a true franchise-altering guy, you have to make the move because you're in a position with the second pick to get him without trading or moving around.
And the other portion about Darnold was that he was going to be up for a contract in a year or two. So it was either go all in on Darnold and hope that he could turn it around or restart. And I think that they came to the conclusion that he's not going to be this guy that can lead the Jets to where they want to go. And we'll see. We'll see. We have no way to tell yet.
Yeah,
if there was an exact science to this, Patrick Mahomes would have been the first pick in that draft, and Tom Brady would have been the first pick of his draft. Joe Montana would have been the first. Like, you never know. No one knows anything. But if history's any indication for the Jets, this isn't going to work out. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Last thing before we go, national championship game in college basketball. Huge dud. Baylor just completely worked Gonzaga 86-70. I knew going in that Baylor was playing better basketball. Gonzaga, though, was seemingly the better team all year round. So I wasn't sure how the game was going to go, but to see Baylor play the way they did and control the tempo the way they did, I wasn't completely shocked. I feel like if Gonzaga was in the Big 12, they probably would have been, like a Texas or a Texas Tech. They would have been in that 10 to 20 range ranked, and not, this number one perfection, greatest college basketball team of all time conversation.
Yeah, here's the thing that I overlooked with Gonzaga. They got completely out-athleted. And I didn't think that was possible for a team that was as good as they were and played as good of a non-conference competition as their non-conference schedule as they did. They beat Iowa. They beat Virginia. They beat some real teams. And maybe I just overestimated those guys' collective athleticism and underestimated Baylor's collective athleticism. But they got absolutely worked. And it wasn't just – or let me backtrack. Baylor played a phenomenal game Monday night. and they would have been any team in the country had they played like that. It didn't matter if it was Gonzaga, Michigan, Illinois. It did not matter. Baylor would have beaten every team in the country with the level of execution and shot making they showed on Monday night. It was unbelievable. I kept telling, I bet $50 on Gonzaga. I really thought they were going to win. Yeah, with the points. I thought they got UCLA's best shot, and that was like, okay, UCLA played the perfect game against them. They made every shot. They went to overtime. They tied it. Like resilience. That is the ultimate like haymaker, and they responded. They're gonna come in. They're gonna crush Baylor. I thought 4.5. Like 4.5 is a close enough spread that I bet $50, and clearly I was way off. And 3 minutes into the game, it was 13-1 or 13-4, whatever it was. And I'm texting my dad like, okay, Baylor has to miss. Like they have to start missing, and they literally never did. And even when they did, they got the offensive rebound, and they were just out. Gonzaga was outmanned. Baylor was way tougher. Baylor was more physical, and Baylor was just all around better. Davion Mitchell was the best player on the floor. Jared Butler was the second best player on the floor. Maceo Teague was the third best player on the floor. Mark Vital was the fourth best player on the floor. And then I put Jalen Suggs in at number 5 as the only guy in Gonzaga who really had a chance to match up with Baylor's athleticism. And other than him, I think you saw everyone else get exposed. They put Drew Timme on an island, exposed. Corey Kispert was on ice skates against Butler and Mitchell on the perimeter, and he was a first-team All-American this year. Even Ayaye, Joel Ayaye, how do you pronounce his name? Ayaye. Well, I mean, he couldn't stay in front of these dudes, and they were continuing to switch. I didn't like the adjustments Mark Few made, or really he didn't make. Went to a zone for a little bit, but when they were shooting that well, it's really hard to play a zone. And they just got out-athleted and outmanned, and Baylor played a freaking unbelievable game, and all the credit to Waco and all the credit to that Baylor program for playing their best when the lights were brightest. And you see in championship games a lot, professional or collegiate, teams don't always play their best in the biggest moments. They did, and they were rightfully crowned national champions on Monday night.
What grade would you give for this tournament?
I give like a B+.
I felt like even though in the end we got the two teams we wanted to see in the title game and one of the all-time great Final Four games, I just feel like there were so many upsets early on that we really got robbed this year of like seeing a lot of epic matchups we wanted to see, and sort of the only really like holy crap it was a national championship game. It ended up being a dud, but there were some cool moments. Obviously, the top being that second half of that Gonzaga UCLA game, which I'll never forget watching that game.
Did I tell you I didn't see overtime? I didn't see overtime. I had to go on air. The second half ended like 3 minutes before I had to go on air. So I had the score ticker, and I just saw Gonzaga wins 93-90. I was like, oh, Gonzaga wins, like not realizing that I just missed one of the greatest shots in college basketball history. I get off air, I check my phone, and I see everyone tweeting like, oh my God, what just happened? So I'm freaking out. And then I had to like double check that it wasn't an April Fool's joke, and it was real. But I missed the overtime. I was livid.
That's the worst. Like that missing out on those moments. Like you can't replicate that feeling of watching that in real time. It's impossible. And
no. It sucked. I was furious.
Thanks for you. And that'll do it for this edition of the Lucas podcast. Love all the Yankees and Nets talk. That's what this is about. Championships, Nets. Let's keep it up. We got the Lakers on Saturday. Follow him on Twitter @CagsLucas, me @LucasFrankel. See you guys next week.